Hi there, this is Paul Hanna from EMD UK and Ireland, and I'm going to take you through a quick guide as to how to use windPRO 4.0, getting started, creating a project and running a simple calculation. The installation and manual information is located on our knowledge base, which is at help.emd.dk/knowledge base. And there you will find both PDF and HTML formats of the entire manual, including the installation and activation. Lots of other useful documents about online data, for example, and links to our YouTube channel, which is where this video will be stored, as well as other videos and documents, as you can see. I'm going to be using windPRO 4.0 Service Pack 1, and I'm going to click on my chosen language, which will be English for today. And I'm going to start a project. And here we can see the map of the world, and a number of different dots are located, as you can see, brownish, reddish coloured dots, which are the various demo projects that we use in windPRO. And this is the startup screen that you would see every time you started up windPRO. And as you can see, there are various shortcuts here to creating a new project, to our website and various news items, and various other things, some of which I'll talk about today. So I'm going to start a project, and I'm just going to start a project that is shown on the quick guide itself, and it's actually in the north of Gran Canaria, near Sardinia del Norte. So I'm just going to double click on the site from question, and I'm prompted to look in my projects folder so I can create a new project, and I'll call it 4.0 quick guide, and I'll give it a project name of 4.0 quick guide as well. So as you can see, it's got the wrong coordinate system at the moment. It's working in the Irish grid for some reason. So I'm going to change the coordinate system once I've set up, or once I've worked my way along the tabs. The standard way to work in windPRO is along the tabs from one across to the other. So in the quick guide, the actual project name is called Faro di Punto Sardina. The time zone is set automatically, so we don't need to worry about that. The coordinate system is currently incorrect. It doesn't realize that we're in Spain, which is something. So I'm going to go to the coordinate system tab and change to UTM North WGS 84, and it's zone 28, which is automatically selected. And then I'm going to put in the coordinates 432.793, 114.119, and the cross would change ever so slightly. I was very close to start with, but it's put it in the position. As you can see, there are some existing wind turbines there. So I've got the coordinate system correctly set up now, and if I go to the background maps tab, I can now load some background maps. And the easiest way to do this, if you're starting windPRO, is to use our dynamic maps. Our dynamic maps are stored on our server in Aalborg, and windPRO will download onto your computer just what it needs for you to be able to work. So if I click on dynamic maps, it then shows me what is available in the local area, and it's obviously related to where we are in the world. But I'm going to choose the Bing aerial maps and the Spanish topographic maps, and I'm going to click Add Dynamic Maps. And you can see that they are now listed along with OpenStreetMap, which is always shown by default. And then I'm going to click OK. And this takes us to the main window, which consists of multiple sections. Up here, we have the reports generated by calculations. In the top left, in the top right, we have the object list. In the far top right, we have the result layers, which are things like shadow flicker maps, noise maps, wind resource maps, that sort of thing. In the bottom right, we have the object layer where we organize our data. And at the bottom here, we have the maps window. And if I scroll between the different maps that I've loaded, you can see there's the Spanish topographic map. can just see there's the Bing aerial maps. You can obviously see that's a highly detailed aerial map. So I could switch to level 15. And you'll see it takes a little moment for things to download. But eventually they do. If you lose where you are in the world, as it were, and you want to find the center of the site, for example, you can see the center of the site is listed in the object list up here. If I select that by left clicking and then right click, I can center on map and it moves. There it is. So it's not very easy to see because it's orange on orange, but you can see it there, and you can see the existing turbines as well in the photograph there too, or in the image. So what we've done at this stage is we've done the basics. We've set up a project. We've added a map or two, and that's all we've done. So that's the basics. Now we can start to think about adding data, and there's lots of things we can add in terms of data that we can use in windPRO, and it depends what calculations you want to do as to what data you want to add. Initially, though, it's a good idea to add some elevation data. At the moment, we have no elevation data whatsoever, so it's a flat Earth, essentially. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to click on the Create New Layer icon here, and I'm going to call it Elevation. That now becomes the active layer, so it's three little lines next to the name there are blue, and that means that any object that is placed on the map is therefore associated with that layer. Now we have two different ways of importing elevation data in windPRO. There's the gridded one, which I'm going to use today, the elevation grid data object, which is very good for environmental calculations such as noise, shadow flicker, ZVI, photomontage, and so on. And then we also have the line data object, the contour line data object, and that's better used for energy calculations, particularly if you're associating it with WASP or with CFD modeling, for example. But today I'm going to load the gridded data, so I'm going to left click to select the object, and you can see that the icon next to the cursor has changed. I'm going to click somewhere in the middle of the site, and I have the option to load a layer if I have my own data, or I can simply go to our online data catalog and see what is available. And there were a number of choices, usually, depending on where you are in the world. As you can see, there's a pan-European digital surface map, 25-meter grid, or there's a Copernicus 30-meter gridded data or 90-meter gridded data. And there's the NASA digital elevation model. So lots of different things to choose from. So in this case, I'm going to choose the NASA DEM, which is a global elevation data set from 2020. I'm going to click Next. And it says, how much would you like? So I'm going to use the default, which is 20 kilometers by 20 kilometers, centered on where I inserted the icon. I'm going to click OK, and it will now go away, and it will download the data. And it's done it very quickly, as you can see. The cell dimensions are 27 by 30 meters, so not too detailed, but not fairly good for an initial view. If I now click OK, I'll be prompted to take the height of objects from that data, which I will say yes, so I'll say OK. And if I now zoom out, you can see, if I zoom out far enough, the elevation data, obviously the sea is all one value, but as you get further inland into the center of Gran Canaria, you can see obviously the elevation increases. You can see down here in the left-hand corner of the screen, the easting and northing. That's the easting and northing of the cursor position. And where it currently says no data, when I move on to the terrain data, you'll see the elevation values also appear. So now you have those as well. So at this point, I'm going to save, and that will save the project file. And it gives us a point at which we can always come back to if we need to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert some new turbines, some existing turbines, I beg your pardon. If I go to the OpenStreetMap, first of all, I'm going to turn the elevation layer off, so we don't need to see it anymore. And you can see on the site already, there are seven wind turbines. And for the purposes of today, I'm going to assume that they are all Gamesa G52s. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a new layer. I'm going to call it old turbines. That's now the active layer because it's blue. And I'm going to use the existing turbine icon. So I'm going to click and click to insert. I'm going to go to my Gamesa turbines and choose the G52 850 with a 55-meter hook height. I'm going to click OK. Now I can repeat that process a number of different ways. I could, for instance, just do exactly the same thing again for the other 6 locations. I could right-click and clone a turbine and then move it into position. I can press down the Shift button on my keyboard first, then select the icon, define the first turbine, same one, and then I'm still in turbine insert mode, single left click to insert the remaining 6 turbines or 5 turbines. And when I've finished, click on the hand, the normal as it's called, and that takes you out of turbine insert mode. So that's how to insert some turbines, at least existing turbines. And that exactly mirrors what you can see in the document, the quick guide document. Now, if we go to the aerial maps view and zoom in a bit, you'll see that the locations of the turbines don't precisely match. And that's because there's a slight inconsistency between the OpenStreetMap and the Bing maps. And we would tend to believe the Bing maps because they're obviously imagery. So by simply selecting and dragging, single left click to select and then left click and hold to drag, I can place these 7 turbines. Sometimes you double click and then that's what happens. I can place these turbines exactly where the turbine base is. And when you're looking at these sort of images, especially if you've got a sunny location, it's where the shadow starts. You can see the tower shadow. So that's essentially where the base of the turbine is. So now I've moved them around and I've put them in the right locations. I can again save just to make sure that everything is saved. There is an auto save feature in WindPRO, which tends to work more when we've started running calculations. So in the early stages, it's good to manually save. There are also different ways that you can visualize how turbines are placed in the landscape. One of these is the 3D view. So you can look at the show update. So on the ribbon here at the top, we've got the ribbon, which is split into various different families. So we've got climate calculations, energy calculations, and so on. On the geodata tab, we've got a show update 3D map view window. And if I click on that, you'll see it has displayed what you can see at the bottom, essentially a strip of the map in this case, with the turbines on it as well. I can zoom in and you can see them. It's vertically exaggerated, as you can see, but it's a good way to display the turbines and to show what they look like. You could, of course, zoom out on the map. So I'm using the mouse wheel to scroll and to zoom out. And in doing so, you can see that the view is updated immediately in the 3D view here. If you don't like the vertical exaggeration, you can obviously turn it off or turn it down. And you can click on the auto spin and it will rotate around and you can see how your turbines look in a very simple way in the landscape. So I'm going to close that window now. So we've inserted some turbines, and so now I'm going to run a quick calculation. The calculation I'm going to run today is the noise calculation using the DECIBEL module. In order to do that, I need to insert another object. That object is called the noise sensitive area, and it's our way of describing a noise receptor. So first thing is insert a new layer, call it noise receptors. Make sure that's the active layer, which it is. And then I'm going to insert a noise sensitive area, or noise sensitive receptor, should I say, somewhere on the site. And in fact, the example that's given in the notes is this house here, which you can just see below where the red square is. Now, there are two ways to insert the NSA, the noise sensitive area. One is to single click and draw an area, which you could do if you were wanting to describe an area. The other way is to double click, and that will create a point. So if I select by left clicking the noise sensitive area, which is this pink icon here, if I then double click, it creates a point and a dialog box is opened up, as you can see. I'm going to choose freely definable form. Some countries you will have country specific forms. As you can see, I could select that, and then you can see there are various different options there. Spain isn't one of them in this case. So I'm going to choose the freely definable form. In this example, I'm going to choose only turbine noise is considered. I'm going to uncheck for more wind speeds, and I'm going to put a demand of 45 decibels in the box there, and this is exactly what is shown in the on the quick guide document. It's obviously possible to do lots of other things too. You can do it for different wind speeds. You can include spectral distributions and low frequency stuff as well. And if you have a country specific set of data, so for the UK or France or Denmark, Germany, Sweden or Holland or the Netherlands, for example, you can obviously choose that specific setting as well, and then follow the regulations of the particular country that you're working in. So now I've set that up. The position is where I clicked, so that's obviously defined. It's got a generic description at the moment called noise sensitive point. I could give it a new description called house near wind farm, for example. I could even display that description on the map by clicking to label it on the map. And when I click OK, the label has appeared, house near wind farm. So again, I'm going to save, and now I'm ready to run a calculation. So on the environment and visual tab, and this would obviously be the same for any type of calculation you want to run in WindPro, subject to whatever modules you have in your license, of course. I'm going to select decibel, which is the first one on the list. And the dialog box opens up. And again, WindPro practice is, first of all, give your calculation a name. So I'm going to call this one existing, if I can spell, turbines, nearest house, something like that. I'm going to use the noise at noise sensitive areas. I'm going to calculate at the house. I'm also going to calculate a map, and that will be shown in the report. And I'm going to leave everything else as the default for this time. But I need a model to propagate the sound from the turbines across the landscape. So I'm going to choose the ISO 9613-2 general, and I'm going to just use all the defaults. There are lots of choices you can make. This is one of the modules where there's a lot of choices to be made, but I'm just going to leave it as the default in this case. Click OK. It's worth checking as you move along the tabs that you have turbines, WTGs, it's short for wind turbine generators. Make sure you have some turbines included in the calculation, and obviously it goes without saying in the case of noise, you have to ensure that the turbine you've chosen from the catalogue has noise data. In the case of the NSA, the noise sensitive area, we have to ensure that we have at least one in the calculation, and we do. And in the case of the noise map, The noise map will be calculated in this case at 8 meters per second, which is the default for the particular model I'm using. It will automatically be calculated at a set distance around the turbines. And you can load and save various different color templates, but again, I'm just going to choose the default. So I click OK. It politely asks me if I want to start the calculation, although it will run it anyway, and click yes. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to check it's got all the information it needs. Now, the turbine catalog is quite comprehensive in WindPRO, but not all turbine manufacturers provide the data that we need. So sometimes WindPRO has to interpolate or extrapolate the data that's missing. So in this case, I'm going to choose auto and let WindPRO fill in the gaps. And then I'm going to click OK. And then the calculation is going to run. And it's run very quickly, as you can see, because it's a very small calculation. So a couple of things. You can obviously see on the map, there is a result that is being shown. And if I zoom out, you'll see there are a set of noise contours, which seem to cover most of the nearest village. But obviously it depends on the regulations in this particular area as to whether or not that is deemed acceptable or otherwise. That's something you would need to work out from the regulations in that particular area. Otherwise, there is also a calculation now has appeared in the report up here. So if I want to view the pages of the report, I can either double click on these individual pages, or I can simply left click on the main heading, right click, choose print, and then choose preview. And that will give me all the pages of the report in one document. This document can be printed, it can be saved as an Adobe PDF file. Lots of different things you can do with it. You can even copy and paste individual elements like the map, for example. So there we see the summary of the results, and it shows us the background to the calculation in terms of the settings that we used, the turbines that were used in the calculation, the information about the location of the receptor, in this case the one, and also the distances from the turbine to the receptor. And then there's a lot more detail. For those who are noise experts or aficionados, you will understand more about that. There's also more background information about the turbine that was used. And then there is a map to show the extent of the noise contours in this particular case. And as I said, you can save that as a PDF file from the menu up here, or you can print it directly if you want to print a hard copy. And all WindPRO reports have similar formats in that there's a front page and there's a back page. The front page is always the summary and the back page is always the map. And what's in between is partly down to your choices, but also partly down to the modules that every module has a slightly different report format. But the overall format is very much the same. So I can click OK. The project will have been saved automatically. So there's nothing that I don't need to auto-save again if I don't want to. But obviously, when I come to close the project down now, I'll be prompted potentially to save the project again. Hopefully, that's given you a quick idea as to how to get going in WindPRO. And any other questions you have, definitely check on the knowledge base. You'll find more videos. You'll find all the manual pages there in terms of the manual chapters for the various different modules that we have. And any other questions, contact the sales department or your local agent.